Welcome, Maya, to the Leaders Who Care series.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I'm really excited.
Thanks for traveling in from Japan. That was nice of you to do that. And
Yeah,
I think this is going to be fun and super interesting. A little different than most of the people we have on because you really hit the mark on culture and obviously in language and people connecting and how do they do it in business and real life. So hopefully we'll have enough time to get into most of that. But good place to start, as always, is if you could introduce yourself. And I especially have to clarify this for men more than women, but not about what you do and all that, but tell us a little bit about Maya. How come you have an extra A in your name, type of thing? Where are you from originally? Where are you now? Whatever you feel comfortable, maybe talking about family, siblings, and whatnot. Tell us a little bit about you.
sure. So I was born in Japan, and my parents are both Japanese, but my father's job took him to the US, and I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then soon after, we moved to Jakarta, Indonesia. So that's kind of where I got exposed to different cultures and different languages, and that's how I developed my love for languages and culture. And I think I wanted to pursue that more, so I decided to go to grad school to study more linguistics. And ever since I've been, well, I did digress. I did go into investment banking for a while because I thought, what's it like to be an investment banker and work on like
Okay, I'm
a
gonna I'm gonna go
Wall
time
Street?
out. I'm gonna go time out because you
Sure,
went
sure.
right to the investment banking, and
Okay,
and you're
that was
you're
too quick.
you're actually ahead of me, doing.
Oh, okay.
But tell me a little bit about. Do you have any siblings, brothers, sisters?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm actually the oldest of four. So I have two younger sisters and one younger brother.
Wow, how much? How about what's the age difference?
2 years apart, and my youngest brother is 7 years younger than I am.
Yeah, that's me and my brother too. Actually,
Oh, really?
it's a big difference early on, but then it obviously gets less and less and less, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, did you how was it growing up in your family? What were you like as a kid? How did you interact with your siblings?
Good question. So I think since my parents didn't speak English that much growing up, I felt like I had to step up to be kind of like the parent figure. And so I would kind of like help my sisters and brother with their homework or whatever was going on at school. So I think my siblings, younger siblings, think of me as like a mini, like a bossy sister, kind of like taking charge. And so I know that, they have ganged up on me, three against one, and try to like, yeah, we've had lots of fights and all when we were young. But
Was that like you're not the boss of me. You're not my mom.
yeah, yeah. But I feel like I need to be that figure.
And how
So
did that work with your mom at the same time?
I think my mom was like, thanks so much for taking on that role. Like, you do that. And because I think she was just like, just everything was chaotic for her, kind of looking after four kids and like trying to get accustomed to a different culture and finding her bearings. So I think, yeah, she's like, you do that.
You do that. Thank God I've got a parent aide here with me, type of thing. So when
Yeah,
did when did that role kind of get less and less, and you
right.
you you let your so-called kid siblings fly their own wings?
Yeah, I think when I studied abroad, I left my family. So, and then from there, I think they all became individual, independent people on their own. And I realized that I didn't have to be there always to like take care of things. It's not like everything fell apart. Which
And
is, I
was
think, maybe I'm jumping here a little bit, but kind of related to my leadership style as well, because I feel like, like as much as it is important to like take care of things and like look after people, I also do realize the importance of kind of letting go and seeing what happens when you aren't in charge, because sometimes people don't want to be bossed around all the time.
Yeah, a lot of times they don't want, and yet at the same time, they want somebody to lead and help take care of them and move things along
Right,
and stuff.
right.
When you left, were they arguing who got your room?
Ah, so yeah, it was always two and two in one each room. So yeah, I guess there was some fighting that went on maybe that I don't know of.
So one had their own room at that point then.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Um,
Good point.
so Maya's leaving. Yay. No more bossing,
Yeah.
and I have my own room. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So are you close
Yeah.
now?
Yes, yes. Closer. I think because I realized that my siblings are the people that I went through and experienced the same things. You know, we lived in the same environment. And so I think we are, even like as a family, we are pretty close, tight-knit.
Yeah, that kind of happens. You grow up and everything. And the reason I ask this question is I find a thread. There's always a thread of how much we learned as a little kid, even to to a youth, to a teenager, or whatnot. That comes forward. Sometimes leadership skills, like you talk about. Sometimes following skills, like you talk about,
Right, right.
and so on. It's embedded in us and comes out in some of the ways we act and some of the things we do and some of the things we achieve. So. How did you, when you came to the States, how did you decide what you wanted to study? I mean, was language always of interest to you? Were you interested in connecting with people? What was going on in your mind?
When I first moved to the US, I was 5 years old. So it wasn't like I chose to, come to the US or I chose to do whatever. But I realized that I kind of had like an ear for language and that I enjoyed studying language. So I think I was really lucky that, it was something I became very passionate about.
Well, at five, you probably didn't necessarily recognize that. I would,
Right.
um, then the whole family moved with you. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so if I moved with you at that point, so you're still young. So how was that adjustment for all of you then to move to the States? Even at five, you're young, but you still, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, for sure. Because the first day of school, I remember not knowing what to say to anyone and kind of just observing people and following what other people were doing. And I remember trying to go to the bathroom, but like in kindergarten or in first grade, the local kids are also trying to learn, the alphabet and different words. So there was no sign for like boy or girl, and it was just BOY and GIRL. And so I couldn't read and I didn't know which bathroom I was supposed to go to. So there were like some frightening moments, like I don't know what to do in this situation. And even when I went home, like it wasn't like my parents could solve those issues. So I do think, there was kind of mm, I don't want to say struggle, but maybe, there were some issues that I did come across. But I think my neighbors were really friendly, really helpful. I think I found a lot of people who helped me along the way. So I think overall, like that's why I have so much gratitude towards Americans and American culture, just because I feel like so many people were so helpful.
Yeah, kids could be very, very friendly, and there can always be a few that are not, type of thing.
That's
Um,
true.
any interesting experiences in that light in school?
Ah, in school. Um, Yeah, I think like going over to friend's house and, celebrating birthday parties was also like a huge cultural gap for cultural shock for me because just the amount of birthday gifts that people get was just so like beyond, whatever was expected in Japan and like the huge birthday cake and, that was like wow, like America's
Over the top?
so out there. Yeah.
Yeah, so we remember always, one kid would have a birthday party and a magician was there. The next family would have a party with a magician and a petting zoo. Then the next family
Yeah.
would have the magician, the petting zoo, and a celebrity. And, And it's
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
next
yeah.
party would have like lions or something that were there. And who can do the biggest one after that?
Right. You're right.
Which is crazy because it also puts a lot of pressure on not everybody can afford all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how does that impact kids and whatnot? When you were going to school, you already knew English when you came, or sort of kind of. You didn't.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So how did you communicate with the other kids?
Yeah, I think just gestures. I remembered vividly lunchtime because my mother packed me like a Japanese style lunch. So the kids were very interested in my lunch and they
Hmm.
wanted to ask me about what I was eating.
That's
But
cool.
I, yeah, but I remember like I couldn't explain to them what it was just because I didn't know what it was and I didn't know how to explain it to
Right.
other kids also. So yeah, that was a difficult experience.
Yeah, but interesting though, because I know we talk about diversity a lot, which is this whole other conversation about if you're allowed to talk about diversity in the States anymore. But
Right.
diversity when I grew up in Montreal was not we didn't talk about we need diversity. We talked about wow, you eat different food. I'd love to try that. Or what's that
Right.
all about and everything. And we were all interested in learning about stuff like that. So um, so it's interesting that it's not surprising that they were interested in the food that
Uh,
you have. Was it sushi or was it other types of food?
it was like a rice ball because
Right.
sushi is like a very fancy food, so we wouldn't have it day to day. It was just like rice and seaweed around it.
Yeah.
And then explaining seaweed was also very difficult. I think it's much more common these days, but back then it's like, what is that black thing that you're eating? Like, why is that on the. So, and I think people didn't really know rice that well either back then, because North Carolina is like from the South and I,
Yeah.
I was probably the first Asian that they met. So,
Well, you sure were differentiated. So that's
yeah,
cool. There was no doubt about that. Um,
right.
so as you grew up, how did you what was your life like? How did you when did it start that you were interested in language and
Yeah.
saw the importance of it?
So when I was in third grade, our family moved back to Japan and we spent a year in Japan before moving to Indonesia. And in the year that I was in Japan, so when I came back first, I couldn't speak any Japanese anymore.
Really?
Yeah, but then I went to a Japanese school and then so I experienced the whole like language barrier thing again and I realized, oh my God, it's so tough. Like I like now I can speak fluently in English, but then now I forgot my native language and now I don't know how to communicate with Japanese people.
Wow.
And then but then it's and then spending a year in Japan and then moving to Indonesia and I went to an international school in Indonesia. And then when I went there, I had completely forgotten my English just by spending a year in Japan, like fully immersed. And I think kind of like that frustration of like, acquiring a language and then losing the language and just realizing how quickly kids can pick it up and then how quickly they can, forget that first language and then, replace that language. And I think that frustration like kind of really pushed me to think about like what is bilingualism or like why am I learning and then forgetting so quickly and how can I um, maintain the two languages so that I don't have to go through this transition every time. So I think there was a lot of that kind of struggle of towards languages that made me interested in what is actually going on in my brain.
Yeah, that's it's fascinating because I speak French from Montreal, but not as good as I
Right.
used to because I've been in the States for decades now. And when
Yeah.
I go back to Montreal, they speak so fast that I have to ask them
Yeah.
to slow down. And I
Right.
lived in Miami for years, even though I traveled a lot. And one of my biggest disappointments is I was learning Spanish and then I didn't become fluent in it. And
Uh-huh.
and I love you really learn culture from learning a language, not just
Yeah.
not just translating it, if you will. And
Right.
yet I admire people so much that in 10 minutes they pick up a language,
Yeah.
and they know it. And yet
Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm forgetting with you, I'm forgetting some of that language. Drives me crazy. I think
Yeah.
it's like, it's just disappointing. So, like I said, that was, I know it's frustrating to me when I go back to Montreal and I've got to
Yeah.
rev up again, and ask them to, can you slow down a little bit
Yeah.
on it? Um, so, when did you decide, education wise, to? I mean, you were in political science, you were in linguistics.
Right.
How did you then decide, or was that the decision maker, what you just talked about, to go into that in school?
So when I was in high school and trying to decide a major for myself when I was for my university major, I decided political science because I wanted to work like as a diplomat or I wanted to work in the UN, and I thought that, learning political science would be a good way to do that. And so that was my major in university. But the more I studied political science, I became interested in so what kind of language, what was actually happening at these meetings, between prime ministers and presidents, and what kind of conversations were actually occurring at the table, and what happened when like World War II started, or what actually was a conversation when World War II ended.
Right.
And so that's, I think, where I became more interested in like the actual language that was being used and what do people say to each other and then what action takes place. So I think that's how I narrowed down my major going into grad school.
Yeah, I love that because words matter, and how
Yeah.
they come out at the right time and everything, because they can be interpreted. There's a funny commercial
Yeah.
on TV. I don't remember what the product was, which makes it a lousy commercial, but I remember the commercial. And this guy ended up getting a cold, and he was actually
Uh-huh.
dealing with the Japanese, and they were about to sign a deal. He got a cold, and he sneezed in his hand, and then the Japanese wanted to sign, but wanted to shake hands for it, and they were talking, and he said, "No, I don't want to shake hands." And they took it like he didn't want to shake hands, but he didn't want to shake hands because he sneezed into his hand, but he said it the
Uh-huh.
wrong way. Um,
Uh-huh.
and it's a commercial. It's not real, but it could be real because they
Right.
heard what they heard
Right.
and so on. So it could make a big difference, as you said.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So,
For sure.
yeah, in traveling, I'm sure you know this too from other travels. We used to always prepare staffs, on what's, anything from how to use your hands. What do you say? What do you this, what do that? Because it's taken in a certain way. So
Right.
I love the fact that you combined political science, with linguistics and language, because that is so important rather than just quote unquote learning another language type of
Right.
deal. So,
Right.
um, how did you then end up in Morgan Stanley as an
Yeah.
analyst?
Yeah. So, and then so I went to grad school in Colorado, and I pursued linguistics. And then I thought, so becoming a researcher or, staying in academia, I realized doesn't make a lot of money. And I thought, this is so, like this is a great life, like, being in the library, doing your research and all. But I realized that that was not the lifestyle that I was looking for, and that I wanted something more. And just at that time, when I was job hunting, investment banking was like the really cool job where you could make probably the most money. So I thought, oh, okay, let me try to get that job.
That's a good language I can speak. Is making money. Mhm.
Right, right. But I mean, it was quite a difficult transition because a lot of the people who were recruiting me kept on asking it, and I don't blame them. Why are you, from a linguistics background, why are you making that leap to finance?
But
So,
maybe it's a differentiator also in the sense that you have a sense, maybe a different sense of how to engage and communicate with people.
yeah, I mean, I try to make, some kind of logical explanation
Well, they
that
obviously
people would
hired you,
buy.
so
Yeah, yeah. So something worked.
something worked. And then I guess I don't know if it's quickly you moved into being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I realized that investment banking wasn't for me and that I wasn't really passionate about it.
Was that before or
And
after you made your first million?
way before, way before. Yeah.
And how did you come to make the decision to be an entrepreneur? Because it's a whole different ballgame. Being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, it's your own business. You've got your family, whatever to take care of, but you also got
Yeah.
if you have employees to take care
Yeah.
of. You're doing business development and the business at the same time.
Right.
At the
Right.
beginning, I guess first thing I should ask you, it's a really cool name you have for your business. How did you come up with that?
Communica.
Hmm.
So okay, so the my first step out of Morgan Stanley wasn't to start my company.
Hmm.
First, I was just doing translation and
Right.
interpretation and kind of like, as a freelancer and just kind of very like transitioning into it. But I realized that, this is just like temporary and that I was not really, it was just kind of like really the same. I was passionate about language and I was happy that I was doing these things, but um, I was just so busy, like chasing one job after one gig after another.
Right.
And I didn't feel like it was an established business. And then when I was doing that, I stumbled across a mentor who was actually the former CEO of Apple Japan.
Oh,
And he had actually
nothing
just stepped
special.
down. Nothing special, right? Um, And he was the one who said that, you have a chance, you can do this. And so he helped, and together we created Communica. And
Was
he
he
was
a
the one who
partner?
taught me. Yeah, he's my partner, my business
Cool.
partner.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So he's kind of taught me how to create like a curriculum, create like a classroom, and how to market and how to find students, et cetera, et cetera. So I owe him a lot. And so I don't think I would have ever been able to do this on my own.
I almost feel like saying, well, that's apples and oranges, but I don't know what that means. He's apple and you're oranges.
Right.
How did you know each other?
So just somebody introduced us and I don't know. And then I kind of pitched my idea and yeah, he said,
And it
let's try
happened.
it. I mean, yeah, I mean that's like a very vague story, but I think it was of course initially when I pitched my business pitch, he was not happy. He was like, this is, you know, like ridiculous. But then I kept, refining it until he thought that it would be doable.
And are you still
So
partners?
yeah, we're still partners, but now I'm the CEO running the company and he's kind of like a chairman, but yeah, still together at it.
Super. No, that's a great contact, obviously, to have, and
Yes, yes.
and complementary because business partners should not be the same. They should be complementary.
Right,
Otherwise,
right.
what's the purpose and stuff? So tell me then. That's both exciting and scary and fantastic and a lot of work and entrepreneur. It's I never liked the term. I understood the term, but I never liked the term work-life balance because I didn't.
Yeah,
I never thought you stop work to have life and then you stop life to have work. You have life and work
right,
is part of it. Um,
right,
so how did you develop? How did you get your first client and what are things looking like now? And most importantly, what's your main offering to people? Why do people come to you?
right. Okay. So my first client was someone, so my business partner's name is Kenji. And so Kenji found two students who would be interested in, learning from me how to speak in English. And so but then before I had only taught like one-to-one English, like, like tutoring style. But this was like more of like a classroom and I had a curriculum and I was teaching. So I remember being so frightened, like teaching to, like I think one of them was from IBM and the other one was from Accenture. They were like hotshot business people. And I had to, tell them how to teach them like present my curriculum to them. So I was very nervous. But I think, I was very lucky that they stayed on, and so I became more and more confident, and then gradually students started calling other students, and introductions were made. So it started to gradually grow. But at one point, we had to change the like pricing system. So initially, it was not that expensive. So it was like okay, I can pay that much. But then from there, we were
Yeah.
like, okay, just step it up.
Yeah.
And so we lost a lot of customers at that point. And then I realized like, oh, okay, so the customers were coming because of the price point. It was like pretty cheap. And then for a cheaper price point, this was a good teacher. And then from there, I had to kind of say, this is like an exclusive English school and you get to be taught by me. And so I realized that the reality of where I was, I think, at that point. So, and I had to do a lot of soul searching and kind of really, step up my game as a teacher because I had never really learned, how to be a good teacher. So I think from there, I really worked on like classroom management skills and kind of making people, feel comfortable and also feel like a team and feel like they were working towards the same goal. And I think those skills really differentiate my teaching style from other teachers now and kind of allow me to teach at the price point that I do teach at. So I think through teaching English, I learned a lot of leadership skills. And yeah, I think so. Right now, what we do is we teach English classes online and on in person, and also different companies, corporations also hire us or hire me as their like, and not just their English teacher, more of like a global like consultant, kind of like what should our company do in order to go global, that kind of figure. And in that process, in that time, I also published multiple books for like a Japanese clientele on how to speak English and how to become like a global leader. And I think these things pushed me to become like an authority figure in the English teaching realm in Japan. So
I,
that's
I
where I am right now.
I think you make so many important points. Number one, people think, well, people always think when they look at any professions and whatnot that, oh, I could do that. But the only reason they think they could do that is because the people doing it are great at what they do and they make it look easy. It's not
That's
easy
true.
to just be a teacher in front of a class. Well, I'll just be in front of the class and teach.
Yeah.
You can say stuff, but it doesn't mean you're teaching. And they're getting
Right.
it and they're keeping it. And there's a lot of people that translate. There's a lot of people that do search firms and stuff like we do. So you got to differentiate yourself. And it sounds like you've done it very well because you're not just teaching people words, you're teaching people how to engage, how to understand culture, how to be in a different country, and that helps them open up their business. And I know you talked a little bit about Japanese, some stereotype of it being shy or
Right.
starting in Japan. And so it sounds like you're really good at helping companies, people of companies, not only learn the language, but take it globally and be able to be confident taking it globally. And if you can speak effectively, that's a big part of being comfortable going global. Um,
Right.
do you have any examples of experiences that really um, made you feel fantastic, that were, great positive experiences of helping certain companies?
Yeah, so one company decided that this is a smaller IT company in Hokkaido, which is kind of like northern island in Japan.
Hmm.
And so they decided that they need to also go global, even though they're, mainly focused in the Hokkaido area. So they set up like a class taught by me of students who were like kind of chosen, like the high, what do you call it? High achievers in
Hmm.
within the corporation to go global. And so they decided to go to AWS, the event that's held in Las Vegas. And so I set up a curriculum where these students would go to Las Vegas for this conference at the end of the year, but then they would have to work up their English skills towards that event. And so since it's been successful, we've been doing it 2 years consecutively, and then this year would be the third. So I think like it's really exciting for me to kind of be a part of, you know, a company that decide, okay, I think we need to go global and we want your expertise to help our employees kind of have that mentality and kind of like push us forward in that direction. So I think that was, one of the really big achievements that I've done.
Super cool. Yeah, you're giving people the confidence to be their best, basically,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
do their best and stuff like that. I know you were because I remember looking at some of the stuff you've done. You were at what was it called? Sushi Tech? Is that what it's
Sushi
called?
Tech. Yeah. Yeah.
So what is Sushi Tech? And
Yeah.
I was kind of jealous because I've never been on stage with the Canadian Prime Minister, but you apparently were on
Oh,
stage with the Japanese
wow.
Prime Minister.
Yes.
Tell us
Yes.
about
Yes.
that.
Sure. So Sushi Tech is has nothing to do with sushi. Um,
Yeah, bummer though.
yeah. So it stands for Sustainable High Technology. Sustainable High Technology. Yeah.
Innovation.
And innovation. Yeah. So I think the governor of Tokyo is hosts this event every year where she invites people from all over the world who are trying to push innovation in technology and development and these areas. And this year we had a very special guest, and our Prime Minister Takaichi came to give a speech. And I was actually chosen to be like the host of this event this year. So I was able to actually be on the stage with probably the two of the most powerful women in Japan right now. So that was, yeah, very exciting.
I bet. No, but that's a great accomplishment, and it's exciting too to be on, and can be a little bit nervous too sometimes
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
scenarios like that.
nerve-wracking.
Um, do you do the other way also, where companies outside of Japan want to come into Japan and help them do that as well?
Yes, so I've also done like I've been on videos to promote like Japan to the world and kind of explain what kind of strategies you need as a foreign company to come to Japan, kind of explaining like the legal and like financial like regulations that go behind that. So yeah, I do, do both ways.
And then there's what I call the most important part is the patience to develop relationships to be successful, right?
Oh yes, yes, because it's not like no one's going to just pick you out of nowhere and say like, "Hey, would you like to do this job?" I think you really have to make connections and people have to have enough trust in you to say, "Okay, we will hire you for this big job." So I think there's a lot of work that goes behind, building relationships and maintaining relationships, throughout the years. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Relationships.
you hear that it's changed a lot. Where more Americans have more experience, obviously internationally now than ever. But it used to be. I still see it, whether it's Japan or the UAE or other places where let's go do business there and bam, we'll hit it. But it's not rocket science that you need to build relationships, and
Right.
you can be impatient if you want to do it, but the investment in building the relationships, to use the keyword you used before, make the business more sustainable if you build a strong foundation of the relationships early. And language and words play a big part of that,
That's true.
understanding the
That's
culture.
true. Yeah.
Which is why
Yeah.
we trademark the term leaders who care. You actually have to care about those
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
to make it happen.
Yeah.
I think it's exciting what you do because in a world where people I think are craving to be cared for and try to have trust and harmony and do things together. Any way that you can help people in communicating together and is critical. Is critical. So that you're not that guy that sneezed in his hand and said, "I don't want to shake your hand," type of thing. Um,
Right. Right.
without even understanding that he made a made a mistake.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
we say in LA that we want to keep the audience wanting more so we can do a sequel. That's a typical
Uh-huh.
LA type of
Right,
line
right,
related to
right.
film. But one more question. With a lot of people I talk to, and COVID, that infamous year 2020, sometimes feels like it was yesterday and years ago for a lot of people at the same time. And with this new virus, the type of thing, it brings it back up
Yeah,
again for people.
yeah.
And now we're already almost in the second half of 2026 already, which is unbelievable. Um,
Hmm.
what are you most grateful for, and what are you most hopeful for?
Oh, wow. Um, so I think during COVID, our company was hit not hard, but slightly in the sense that there were no events, there were no people gathering together. And we do a lot of like talking, like public speaking, keynote speaking. And that's where people know about us. And that's where people decide, oh, okay, I'd like to learn more from me. So it was very difficult for me to like find new students during that period. So I am very grateful that COVID is over and hopefully we don't have further viruses like COVID, at least for a while, because I think, yeah, people gathering is so important for my business. And I think it's really, you know, I think with social media, Instagram and so much marketing goes on, is done online. But again, kind of because I really value building trust and building like sustainable, long-lasting relationships, not with just our clients, but with our students as well. So it's important that I really meet these people and know who they are and like what their intentions are so that I can really truly help them rather than just kind of saying like, oh, if you work with me for like however many hours, your English is going to improve, by 200% or, I don't want to say, I don't want to false advertise what I'm doing and get clients that way either. So the whole marketing process is always also very slow for my company. So, and in order to do that successfully, I need to meet people. And so I think, yeah, I'm very grateful that COVID is over and that, we are kind of getting back into
And what
the events.
and what are you most hopeful for?
Hopeful for the gradual expansion of my business and also just it's so exciting for me to be able to talk to you. And also, I didn't realize that, we could share so much in terms of like ideas and concepts, even though we're worlds apart. And I feel like this is very, very exciting and hopeful for me.
Well, thanks. It's exciting for me too. Um,
Right.
gives me another reason to want to come to Japan. Another good reason to
Oh,
come to
yeah.
Japan and stuff.
Why football? I mean, hockey, I guess.
I have seen hockey in Japan years ago, actually, and but I think I'm grateful and hopeful for the same thing. First of all, I'm grateful that I have a new friend, and I'm looking at her.
Yeah.
Um, so that's super cool. You can never have enough of those, my grandfather said. And and I'm grateful that you are a leader who cares, and I'm hopeful that because you are a leader who cares about bringing people together, not just because to do a deal or not just because of whatever, but really bringing people together, which then makes business more sustainable and makes everything more sustainable. And
Right.
not to sound, philosophical, but makes the world a better place at the end of the day. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for being on the Leaders Who Care series.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.